Hey everybody, welcome to SFA Podcast. I'm super excited that you're here. And today is going to be a fire episode. So I'm just going to get right into it. We are 22 days since I started my 40-day sadhana and my free spiritual Telegram group where I'm leading a bunch of beautiful people into a specific kriya that's focusing on creativity, where we get to work on communication, our heart, as well as working our sacral chakra, which is responsible for sensuality. It's allowing us to be sensitive to our creative natures. And we're also diving into different manifestation techniques. And this was inspired by the fact that we only have a couple more months left out of the year in 2024. And so I wanted to do something for my community. And I'm always trying to think of what is the value that I want to bring to my community? What is something that I can do, something that I'm passionate about, and something that I love? And also, it's really fun to test different things and be open to what does a collective want. And I was very surprised. Initially, I started us doing the sadhana at 5:30 a.m. And for those that don't know, sadhana is a daily spiritual practice, but I had us originally do the actual sadhana practice at 5:30 a.m. And for me personally leading it, it's such a different sort of container that I'm doing because I've participated in sadhanas before where I was actually a student, not the person leading it. I've only led it a couple of times. And when you're leading it every single day, it requires a different energy from you. Like you are up, you are doing it, you're the teacher. And so it required more energy than I actually had the capacity for. And so that's when I decided to switch it. And initially it was like, okay, I wanted to try something new. I wanted to provide value, but I'm learning so much for myself within these 40 days. And one of the asanas that we do in this specific kriya, it helps you experience the truth of who you are. And let me tell you, I originally just wanted to manifest a bunch of stuff, right? A bunch of stuff in my business, a bunch of stuff in my personal life, my home life, all of that stuff. And for a while, I was on this momentum where like literally opportunities are just flowing to me. And I couldn't believe the amount of magnetism, the amount of radiance that I was drawing in. And I don't want to share about those manifestations because they're still coming into fruition. I'm a firm believer that you don't share manifestations until after it's happened, right? You don't want any bad juju on it, any bad vibes, energy, all that stuff. But one of my favorite things that I've been doing is that I've been really consistent in these practices. And I've seen so much growth and change already just in the amount of time that we've done where I've become very surprised. And the biggest one that I can attest to is really being able to understand myself at a deeper level. I know that when I was doing Kundalini yoga, specifically in my training, and we were doing it in this really intense container, that I had a lot of downloads. And in this particular container that I'm in right now, that I'm leading, I've noticed that I'm more connected to myself, more connected to my soul, more connected, and to be frank, just more honest, right? I think, especially as an entrepreneur, you can get so caught up in the business of what are people doing? What are the trends? What is this? What is that? That you just lose your center. And for me, it was like a lot of things that I did chase of, okay, what is something that I see people doing and how can I get involved with that? Because if I see them making X amount of money this way, then that's something that like maybe will happen for me too. And mind you, if you're new in business, and there's a lot of business coaches that are touting this, it's like they're selling you these strategies, but essentially what they're doing is just selling you strategies that worked for them. And so at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is about learning what unique blueprint works for you, because it can be a cauldron of so many different things. There's not going to be one size fits all type of strategy. And for me, I realize it's almost like feeling myself come full circle into what it is that I really want to share. And at the core of my work, it's just spirituality. And so there are so many different facets. There are so many different types of lenses that I looked at spirituality in, but ultimately at the umbrella, it is spirituality. So when I think about the first iteration of my business, it was inner child healing. So it was a lot of inner child healing. It was a lot about working with that. And people knew me as that. They touted me as that. And I remember hanging out with old colleagues and they were like making fun of me because they knew, oh yeah, Lisa's like the inner child person. She's the inner child coach. And because that was something that I believed in so much, and I still do, and it's still a part of some of the work that I do, but it's framed in a different way, such as working with the mother archetype, invoking the inner mother. And then after I got into that, then personally, I dove into a lot of feminine spirituality. And then that drove me into Tantra and what that entailed, and traditional Tantra, yoga, Tantra Hatha, and just studying different archetypes, working with all the different goddesses. And it's so interesting to see how all of it has coalesced and where I'm at today and what I feel called to share and what feels real and true for me. And as I was doing a lot of the feminine spirituality stuff, it was stuff that I was very passionate about. It was stuff that I was teaching people on. We worked with different archetypes. We worked with different goddesses. I was doing a lot of Jungian type of therapy. I was doing a lot of dream work. I was diving into a lot of the Hindu tantric goddesses. I was diving into a lot of the dark feminine. Now that I find myself rounding out the corner, and I believe it is, I actually want to look it up because I don't want to misquote myself. I'm actually just going to pause this. Okay, I'm back. And so it was from Maureen Murdoch, Heroine's Journey. And so if you're new to understanding what the sacred feminine journey is, understanding what divine feminine is, if you think about it, it's just, you know how there's God, right? God is masculine, goddess is feminine. And so it's understanding the feminine aspect of the divine, understanding the feminine aspect of the goddess. And she's has her story in many different religions, many different cultures, many different timelines. And when I first dove into the sacred feminine journey, it was a lot about what is my journey towards with my own individual self. There was Lisa and her journey with in relation to her parents, in relation to men, in relation to other women, but then what is the actual journey within myself? And Maureen Murdoch, she has a really beautiful cycle of what a woman goes through as she comes into her own being. And so it's this process of individuation, which was coined by Carl, of a person who is able to become who they are, right? So when you're young, you rely a lot on your parents, your upbringing, and you look and who you are and who you define yourself is in relationship to others. And so you learn to define yourself as you are as an individual. That is the journey. And so this is, I'm going to read it. So the first step is the heroine separates from the feminine. The feminine is the mother, the mentor figure, or someone who is feminine. And so if you look at Demeter and Persephone, it's like when Persephone was abducted by Hades and was sent to the underworld. That's actually the separation from the feminine. And then you identify with the masculine and gathering of allies. So the heroine embraces a new way of life. This just involves choosing a path that is different than the heroine's prescribed societal role, gearing up to fight. That is limiting the heroine's life options or entering some masculine dominant identity. Okay, so this is more of, say you want to be a working woman, you want to be a boss babe, you want to be a boss woman. And so you take on that role of being masculine, you take a part in the patriarchy and money, sex, power, all of that stuff, that becomes your identity. And it's like how aggressive, how dominating you can be. And then number 3, the road, trials, and meeting ogres and dragons. So the heroine encounters people who try to dissuade her from pursuing her chosen path or who try to destroy her. So we've all met these, right? Like people who are haters in our life, who are either don't agree with what we're doing, who want to steer us towards a different path than the one that we've actually chosen for ourselves. And then number 4 is experiencing the boon of success, overcomes obstacles. So it's almost like that. It's very similar to the hero's journey, but it was Maureen Murdoch's version of, it was her response to the hero's journey that she created the heroine's journey. And number 5, heroine feels spiritual death, right? Her new way of life is too limited. Success is illusory. It's some sort of, it requires a betrayal of herself. And so that's what happens. That's what I see a lot of women right now, especially when they're in the working force. I think, was it McKinsey that created this study where it said, oh, forget the number, but a lot of women are quitting the corporate world because they want to do something that is related to their passions. And so people are just opting out. People are opting out of the way this paradigm is. And then number 6, initiation and descent to the goddess. And so I'm just gonna grab some water. So this is a woman who is now understanding, okay, I don't like the life that I want or that I created for myself when I realized it was just a hoax and I was trying to please other people and not myself. And I betrayed myself over time. I abandoned myself over time. And so I need to meet myself. I need to meet my shadow and all the things that I don't like about myself that I've been hiding. And so this is very similar to when you think about the goddess Inanna and when she descends to meet Ereshkigal, which is the twin sister, ultimately, aka it is herself in the dark feminine form. And so we all go through this process, and she reaches different gates of hell. And each of the 7 gates are supposed to represent a different chakra. And so we all go through this period, right? We all start to think about, okay, the things that I thought I really loved, that I thought defined me, I have to take it off and I have to come to this place as really raw, vulnerable, and naked and really understanding who the F I am. So that's another part. And then eventually the heroine, she connects like with who her true feminine essence and spirit is. And that's where you see a lot of people wanting to be in their receiving era, or they just want to tap more into their feminine spirit, understand what that is, and be more embodied, and maybe get into more movement and dancing and be intuitive and be in flow and be more nurturing, and all of the qualities that you associate feminine energy with. And then eventually what happens is you start to get through this sort of journey of learning to heal your relationship to your own mother and the different archetypes. So it's maiden, mother, crone, understanding, okay, if you're in the maiden archetype phase, and what does that mean? How can you heal yourself if you're in that maiden phase? Not to say anything's wrong with being a maiden, but if you are trying to mature into the mother phase, right? So each of those qualities, each of those archetypes have both light and shadow. And that's where you start to really understand different perspectives of a mother's role, also a maiden's role. And it's just really beautiful. And I think that's where I definitely was. So it was a mixture of that that I was in as I started diving into more divine feminine stuff. And then one of the steps here is like the woman heals the inner wounded masculine within. And so that's when you look at your relationship with the different male figures in your life. Can be father, brother, anything like that. And I've done a lot of that with different relationships, and I've talked about it. And so for me personally, I feel like I've healed my relationship with the masculine first before I did with the feminine. And then we're at number 10, where it's the last step, where the heroine finally integrates both. So you unify both of those polarizing energies of masculine and feminine. And so you need to have a new understanding of yourself, of what are the feminine and masculine qualities, how do they work together. And even though you're seeing through the lens of binaries, you're looking at this larger picture from a different altitude of how you can operate in the world as both healed. And that is where I find myself at. And so it's like I almost skewed so much into the divine feminine world, and it was great and it was fine, but I knew something was missing. And I couldn't necessarily put words into it, because sometimes when you're so attached to a business or attached to a certain vision, oh my gosh, there are claws on it, right? Because you want the outcome to be a certain way. And sometimes you just need to let go and lose control and deviate a little bit and understand. And that's where the magic happens, of like letting things unfold the way that they actually need to be and not trying to be in control of everything. And so that's why I was stuck in this sort of impasse of what do I do? What do I not do? And I noticed the signs that it just was not working. And I tried to make it work because I declared it as my niche and everything. And then I just realized, like, it's when I was sick. So I was sick all of August, September. And during the time I was sick, I really had time to go inwards and think, is this the right thing to do to sunset the membership? And then I realized, yes, it was. And as soon as I did, I had no backup. I had no definition or direction of what path I wanted to go to. And looking back at it now, like coming full circle, going back to this sadhana thing, I recognize more and more that necessary, I guess, stop on my spiritual path of figuring out this like whole spiritual entrepreneurship type of journey was necessary for me, because it didn't allow me to get to this place of recalibration. I see it full circle. I see it everything. And it's okay. Yeah. So I am a women's empowerment coach, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to help men. Like I actually do help men. I do have men that I do coach with. And it's really interesting to see myself embrace it. And so I can only say this in retrospect, that I knew deep down inside that was not going to be the full stop. Even though I like wanted it to be like, oh, I'm going to declare this. I just want to be this sacred feminine mentor, and that's it. But it's ultimately, when I think back at it, I knew deep down in my bones. And so my question for you is, if you see yourself, if you feel yourself declaring something and when your body that it's reacting a certain way, or if it feels a certain way, there is that little like gut reaction, that visceral reaction that it like you just don't feel it. Listen to that. Even though mentally, logically, it makes sense, the body doesn't lie. It just does not lie. You can lie and say you're cold, but if you ask your body and your body's shivering, oh, when they say that, like, oh, do you need a jacket? I'm not cold, but you're shivering. And so it's just, if anything, Kundalini and doing the specific kriya has allowed me to realize when I'm lying, like when I'm lying to myself versus not. And the thing that it's given me is the gumption and confidence to know and not care, right? Not care, try to not care what other people think, and just go with my gut and trust my heart even more so, because at the end of the day, if I learn to trust myself and I honor what my body's actually feeling and responding to me, then I choose to reinstate and I choose to amplify and strengthen that message of, or that language and that connection with my heart, with my soul. Right? Not to say that the mind isn't worth anything, but like your soul tells you something so different. And that's why I love doing sadhana, because no matter what kriya I'm doing, I am always connecting to my third eye and the pituitary gland, and that will always be responsible for your spiritual evolution. It's master glands. It's known for helping with all of your glands, your thyroid, reproductive, all of those glands. And I've noticed such a huge shift in myself. And I often get this a lot of times from different clients is, how do I trust myself? I don't know how to trust my decisions. And it comes from a lack of listening, really truly listening. When someone's right for you and when someone is not right for you. Like you really do know, but then all of a sudden we have conversations with people of trying to outwit it or logically try and put a decision based off of like different things. And sometimes intuition is the tipping point. And so I encourage you, if you are new to this type of practice or want to get involved, just know that it's here for you. Like you can join my free Telegram group, even though we're halfway in, like you can still join. You can just still join. You can experience it. I'm going to have it in the show notes. And I will be leading more of these because it is absolutely something that I love. I think it's so potent. I think it's amazing to be able to tap into this type of offering where you get to work on something very specific. You get to show up every day for yourself. You get to commit to something, which shows your devotion to something, and you get to learn different manifestation techniques, which is based off of universal laws. And the magic starts to happen and unfold, and you get to be in a beautiful container. This is free, the one that I'm doing right now, but I will have paid offerings. We will go deeper into it. This is just a teaser. So if you want to be involved, join it now so you can get a hot taste of it. But anyways, so looking forward to having you in the Telegram group, and I will catch you all later.